Hey everyone, Pipgray here with another theory breakdown video. I want to talk to you about the value of the counter raid. So what is a counter raid? How I would define it is when you're on a defensive, your opponent's attacking you, you are defending your base. You send units, often cavalry. It could technically be any unit, but it's often cavalry because it's faster and can get on top of villagers to attack enemy villagers. Now, why do that? First is to buy time. This is often the case in any scenario, but especially if you're deciding to go castle. You want to go castle, your opponent's making units. It's very common, or even going to Imperial if you're running castle, you send cavalry because they have to chase that cavalry down. If they ignore it, it could do too much eco damage, and so they will chase, and while that chase is happening, you're then hitting your age up and then getting the next upgrade or unit that will then allow you to win the game. Second, of course, to do eco damage. This is especially, I think, pertinent for if you're doing some sort of eco play. Usually it's a second TC. So let's say you go second TC at the start of the match. Your opponent decides to all in you. They are on limited eco. Their advantage is often that they have invested more into military, so they're trying to keep you off good resources, and they themselves are using good resources. So if you're a 2TC, they've made units. They're probably on deer and boar, trying to get really good food supplies so they can keep up that amount. But they have less villagers than you. And so a counter raid is great because, one, you can often catch your resource being greedy on opponents. Once you do that eco damage, you then push them away. On top of that, if this is like mid-game, so we're talking like 15 minutes or after, it's a good chance your opponent is on a wood line outside of their initial one or on a gold away from their original one, which means that their villagers are very open to be attacked. And lastly, split their army. If you do a successful counter raid, they have to chase it. They have to stop it. And so that is reducing most likely the amount of army that is on your doorstep. It might even open up a chance for you to counter push. So if you raid with, like, let's say 10 horsemen, that's a lot. Let's say you raid with 8 horsemen. And they turn and they send, 12 knights or 20 or 12 spears after those horsemen. Then that might be the amount you need to then take the fight that's in front of your base and actually win that one, because they oversent or and they overdid the response. And often that's what will happen on a counter raid. Your opponent will freak out and they are oversend a response force, which will then actually open you up to defend your main base. So why are you in this situation? Why are you having to counter raid? The most common one, in my opinion, is the 2TC. You've gone second TC. Your opponent is thus trying to punish you for that. And so you can't really leave your base, but you're trying to slow down their ability to keep attacking you. Another example of this would be, the goal of that. The goal of that, of course, is to buy yourself more time. The whole point of a second TC is that eventually your eco will get so good that you will then be able to outproduce your opponent. And so even though they've started by making more units than you, you will then catch up on the amount that you're making. You're trying to buy yourself more time, or in this case, actually maybe even do more damage, so that eco hit is then happening faster. Next is you're rushing an age. So you've decided that you can't win in this age, and so you're trying to get to the next one. And so you realize that your opponent's gonna have a bigger army than you, and if they just push in while you're trying to age up, you could die. And so this counter raid is trying to divert that situation. And lastly, you took a bad fight. This happens sometimes. You have taken a fight in the middle of the map, remaining your opponent's base, and now they have a much bigger army than you. And so you need to delay until you can remake your army. Maybe you actually didn't have as much production as you needed, or you've switched on to different eco, and like you're doing a farm transition. So you need to basically buy yourself time. You're trying to make it so your opponent doesn't push immediately, and that gives you time to then remax your army and then take a good fight near your base. So how do you do it? What's the point of this counter raid? If you've been watching my videos, you notice this is the third time I've used this image. That is because this image is actually pertinent in this one. So I thought, why change it out? So first, it's important that if you're going to be doing a counter raid, it means that you still need to keep safe at home. You don't want to send your entire military and leave your own base and your own eco open to attack. So first, there's just good defensive units to have. Mass range is really good on defensive because usually you're fighting near your buildings, which means if they have melee units, those melee units get stacked up between the buildings while your range units get to keep shooting. Another really good defensive unit is the mangonel. Once again, splash damage as those enemy units get congested together trying to push into your base. I'd say lastly, a really good defensive unit is, and I meant to also put this down here, is defensive building. So like towers with springhold or cannon emplacements, keeps. If you get down a really good keep or a couple really good towers, then you can reduce the amount of units you need to defend and use those units to counter raid to buy yourself time. Lastly, if your opponent has gone really heavy cav, mass spears is really good for that because you're not having to chase them down. You're just setting them on your eco. Or if it's something like knights, then crossbows, of course. But just mass ranged in general is really good at, as a defensive unit. Picking your spot. So when you're going to raid, it's important you've one scouted the whole map so you know where resources are, and then you're picking your spot. I'd say you're considering this based off time amounts. If you're within the first 15 minutes of the game, generally the only thing you can raid is your opponent's initial gold if they haven't towered it, and that's really only if gold is important to them. So if they're like a knight civ and they want to make knights, then yes, it makes sense to go after their gold. Two, I'd actually say is their exposed food resources. So if I'm purple and I'm defending and I'm trying to do a counter raid on my opponent yellow, I'm guessing they're going to be on the deer or the boar. And the point being, and the reason why, is because they are trying to leverage their aggression by getting on good food resources and then using that to power their attack against you. So you want to pick your spot. If you're from like minute 15 onward, there's a very good chance that your opponent is on their next gold. But if you look at the map, there's two options. So if I'm looking at this map, yellow is either on their next back gold, or they've taken the center gold. And the philosophy behind that is that oftentimes when people are being very aggressive, they will take central resources because it has opened them to do so. And then the idea is then if they get pushed back, well, then you have really nothing to take because they've already taken the central resources. So I would say either doing the next golds behind or checking the center gold. Second, if you're in 15 minutes onward, there's a good chance they've burned through their initial wood line and have been digging deep into their secondary one. So checking the secondary gold line, wood line would also be great. If you're in late castle or early imp, there's also a really good chance that they're on stone because they're wanting to get a keep. So checking stone as well, or just upgrade. So checking a stone as well outside the base would be a good choice. But I would say secondary wood lines, food resources, it really depends on how late you are into the game. If you discover where they've set up their farming, and this is like 15 minutes onward, then continuously raiding their farming eco is also a really good choice. So my next point is don't send too much. So if you have a defensive force and you send way too much on a counter raid, there's a good chance they will see how much you sent and just all in you. And even if you do a lot of eco damage, you'll just die. And so you have to be prudent with how much you're sending. That's why I say like, you know, eight horsemen is reasonable. If you have maybe like 3 or 4 men at arms, like you don't want to send too much and thus ruin your ability to defend yourself, which is why often I only send cav, because cav are an okay defensive unit. They're a much better offensive unit. And lastly, the follow-up. So let's say you get a really good raid off, you've killed a lot of villagers, and now your opponent is sagging back as they have to defend against this raid. The key here is asking yourself, what situation am I in? Are you 2 TC versus 1 TC? This might be a great chance to not push back out and see how much military they have. Can you take a really good fight? And then if you take a fight and you have a lot of military left, you're then counter pushing. If you take a fight and you don't really win it, that's still good for you if you're the person with an eco advantage, because that means that they're going to be spending a larger percentage of their eco rebuilding that military, and you have a chance to now take the military lead because you both have lost an equal amount of military, but you should have the better eco to support more military. If they're still pretty strong on your base, a good follow-up after that is then trying to secure a different resource that they now can't defend. So for example, if they're pushing the front part of my base here and I get off a counter raid and they're chasing me, that'd be a great chance for me to go take the resources on the right side here, maybe with a few units and then towering it or a keep or something. But that's a great chance to do that because they might not have the APM to then deny that. So now what I want to do is actually go show you an example of where I counter raided, my read on why I counter raided, and the effects of that. All right, so as you can see here, we're 30 minutes into the game. I've been on 2 TC, so my villager count is quite extensive. Earlier in this match, he actually had me by a lot more units, but I've been keeping on taking fights, and the reason I've been taking these fights is because my eco is better, and so I've been able to replace better. But now I'm really looking for something that's really going to finally break his attack here and allow me to finally push out. He's been stuck in front of my base for a while, trebbing things down slowly. I keep taking fights, but not able to actually do the killing blow, partly because he has 53 yeomen. So it's been a little bit of a slog. So finally, I have this pretty big mass of horsemen and knights, and I decide I'm going to go see if I can get a raid off. At the 30-minute mark, he definitely has to be outside of his base at this point. I was guessing he was on, I was going to check golds first. So if we look on the map, he is on this gold. So of course, when I'm looking at the map, I knew he had mined the center gold, so I knew he had to be on one of these outside golds. 2, I also knew after we just took a fight that he can't push in yet, and this, even though it's only 13 men at arms and 6 spearmen and 12 archers, he can't push in right now with just pure yeomen like he has. He will die under towers and TCs and things like that. And so I know I have the force, and I'm currently making more units, so I feel like I have the force to defend if he does decide to push in. So I'm gonna send these horsemen on this route here. At this point, let me show you from my perspective so you can see like my vision as this is happening. So As you can see on my mini map, the only thing I see is these golds over here. So these are the golds I'm going to check because I feel like he has to be on one of these, and then I'll push in across the map because even though he is on manors, he has to have food somewhere as well, and he needs wood still as well. So as this is happening, I'm still making siege, I'm making my defensive units, he's taking potshots at me, I send them to this first gold, and bada bing bada boom, he's on the gold. Raid starts going great. I see the raids going well, and look, he immediately has to back up. It's not even that, like, I have a force I can beat his force yet. He's just scared. If you look at the backside here, his reinforcements are now falling backwards. So his initial horsemen have backed up. His spearmen and men-at-arms group has backed up. They've already shifted northward, which allows me to then charge in onto his main longbow or yeoman group. All his new units as well are going to be rallied to defend against these horsemen and knights as well. So it's taking away reinforcements and it's buying me space. He can no longer actually take this fight, so he has to back up. I keep raiding backwards. I leave a group of horsemen to delay his hoblars he sent back, and then I run up to the next. I see, luckily, he's on this wood line right here because he has to be. It's like a 30-minute mark. So now I'm just chasing villagers again. And this is the opening I needed, actually. His villagers that were on gold are now backing out away from gold. If you look at his current resources, he now has no wood because I pushed him off his wood line. All his melee units are back here, leaving his archers open. And now this is where I follow up. I follow up because I see how many units I've killed, and my eco is really, really good. I've got a lot of production up, so now I feel like I can just pump and just completely overtake him. My horsemen are still running around the backside. I don't know where his farms are, but I'm guessing people always set up their farms behind their base. So I'm going to go back here and check. And it's just slowing him down so much. What this is going to lead to is my ability to just finally push in and win the game. Keep in mind, what I didn't show is that I did try counter raiding a couple times before this one, but I kept picking bad spots and I would just pull the horseman back to then attack his archers from behind. But that raid opened up space for me, and it gave me time to then take a much better frontal fight, which then opened up this whole push right here. I hope you learned something from this video. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment below. Please like and subscribe. Huge for my channel. And then check out my other content in the links in the box below this video. Thank you so much for watching. Good luck on your games.